Central University, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, Bihar. Today's guest speakers, Professor Dalbia Namte, Professor of Education, Director, College Development Council, Mizoram University, and so many feathers in her cap, a very experienced faculty of the university. She will talk about education research in Mizoram. Our young, energetic Associate Professor of Mizo, Dr. Ruth Alim Ruati, she will talk about history and culture of Mizoram. My esteemed colleague, today's Organizing Secretary, Professor H.K. Laldinpui Fente, Professor and Head, Department of Psychology. My colleagues in Mizoram University, Ek Bharat, Shreshtha Bharat team, all my faculty members, research scholars, students, and also my partner university, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, Bihar. Their Vice Chancellor, Professor Sharma, Nodal Officer, Professor Afikul Islam, the members of EBSP team, Motihari, Bihar, their faculty, research scholars, students, and our esteemed participants. Because of the time, and today university had so many programs, so it had to be started at 5 p.m. And now Professor Laldinpui Fente was telling us that this is the constraint that we have to do. I said, okay, no issue. Our esteemed speakers, they will talk about 20 to 25 minutes on the topic. And to start with, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, the Chief Guest, he will speak few words. But before that, let me just welcome our Chief Guest, esteemed speakers, all the faculty members, both the Ek Bharat Shreshtha team members, esteemed participants, and all the people who are watching live in YouTube. Esteemed friends, it's a great pleasure. I have to just welcome all of you because it's a time to rejoice. Someone asked me long time back, why you are in Mizoram for so many years? I said there are so many reasons for that. Mizoram as a state is an island of peace. Mizoram as a state is full of smiling people. Mizoram is God's natural AC. Mizoram is the state where it is the place of singing birds of India. Mizoram is the place where we have the Chiro dance or bamboo dance, which has got a place in Guinness Book of World Records. Mizoram is a place with fantastic etiquette in the street. Mizoram is a place where their motto is others before self. And I can go on counting. So my friend who was talking to me about Mizoram was astonished. Oh, is it so? I said so many things. You go there and you see the scenic beauty. It's a mosaic of color and culture, history and tradition, the smiling people, and so disciplined students at the top of all. I gave an example. So there are 1,000 students in the auditorium, the photo which is with me in the screen, and the 1,000 students, with them, there will be pin drop silence in the room. It is unique in the whole country, a ragging-free university. Under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Rao, we are marching ahead. And today's webinar also is successful because of the friends, the faculty, our staff, research scholars, students, and other enthusiasts who make it possible today. So at the outset, I again welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, the esteemed Chief Guest, our dear speakers, Professor Fente, the Organizing Secretary, all of you. With these few words, let me request Professor K.R.S. Ambassador Garu, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Mizoram University, today Chief Guest, to speak a few words. Sir.
Good evening, all. Respected Professor Srinivas Patiji and my colleagues, Professor Baby Fente, P. Dicky, and P. Ruth, and other faculty members who are here, and the participants. It's a very pertinent topic of Mizoram, which is planned by our colleagues under Ek Bharat Shreshtha Bharat program. The state of Mizoram actually fits into Ek Bharat Shreshtha Bharat program very appropriately because it was a land actually need to be known to many people in the country, which is not known to many people in our country. Before I come to Mizoram, I'm also not knowing what is Mizoram, how is Mizoram, and how is the culture of Mizoram. Uh, when I attended the interaction of Mizoram University Chancellor selection, I started looking into the Google search about the Mizoram. And I learned so many things about Mizoram, and I was attending the interaction program. They were asking me, how you know about all these things of Mizoram? They were telling. Then I told it is through Google search. I never had been to Mizoram, but I could able to know about Mizoram uh, uh, very well about Mizoram in Google. And just now we had a very beautiful description about Mizoram by Professor Srinivas Patiji. I don't understand. Maybe I'm ignorant of his meaning, but he said island of peace. But maybe it is not land of peace. It can be corrected. Maybe I don't know. No island here. So maybe I don't know whether his meaning is different about what he said island of peace, but it can be called as a land of peace. My feeling is. And it was one of the state actually which is not known to many people, but there are so many things to understand about Mizoram. Mizoram is a place where gateway for Southeast Asian countries, uh, being located in the extreme northeast part of India. And also it was a state actually has got a big border of more than 722 kilometers with the neighboring countries of Bangladesh and Myanmar. And it was name Mizoram actually derived from the Mizos, the self-described name actually it is called the inhabitants and Ram, which the Mizo inaugurated means land. It is actually, it has been called. Mizoram means land of the Mijos, and the which is a very very landlocked state. It is no rivers or small rivers are there, but actually it's a totally almost like a landlocked state, sharing borders with sister states, namely Tripura, Assam, Manipur, and it was having countries with bordering with Myanmar and Bangladesh. And it was previously under Assam till 1986 and until 1972. And in 1986, it has become a separate state in the Indian Constitution. So, like that, I know about Mizoram that its capital is Aizawl, and we used to see the one of the states of our country, and we have been listening about Mizoram. And when I came to Mizoram here, I was really wondered uh, when I'm traveling from airport, traveling to university. I was really little bit confused how I'm traveling on these hills. And if you just look into the side, there is a big valley. And like that, many people used to say several times about Mizoram that when they're traveling, they're actually terribly shivered to travel from airport to university campus. Initially, for 1 or 2 times, I was also feeling the same thing. Uh, but after that, I started sleeping at university and getting up at airport. And similarly, when I go back to university, I sleep at airport and I get up at university campus. So pleasantly, I would be sleeping in travel from airport to university. So that is the kind of habituation I got in Mizoram when I habituated here in living for almost 4 years. And though it is a very small state in population, and also in the area. It was actually a state of a culture of extreme importance to the country, that how people are living in a place where how they are actually been communicating to the whole world, that how they are actually peaceful in living and also propagating the integration of the country, and how they are actually inviting hospitality and providing hospitality to the people of other parts of the people who actually comes here. And several people I used to know from my colleagues like Professor R.P. Vadera and Professor Patnaik, J.K. Patnaik and Professor Srinaspati and other people. When they say that they are living here, they got many opportunities, and after working for many years in a different parts of the universities, and several people even from NEHU also they joined here. Some professors who are actually working in NEHU, they came and they joined here. And one recent professor, recent faculty member from in computer science, he resigned at Assam University and joined here. I was asking them why you came to Mizoram University from Assam University here the last year when during interview, and also after the interview, I was asking him. He was mentioning that a, a place where I can work very happily and peacefully for academics and research. This is what actually he answered. And there is no satisfaction for me to work in a place like where I'm working earlier. And similarly, many people actually who are living for the past 20 years and 25 years, they're saying that we have a place where we have a peaceful environment for working, and also for living in a very nice manner, and very peacefully we are living for the past several years. It was actually, that was the Mizoram. And many people throughout the country, they are not knowing about Mizoram. And they were this is a very, in that particular point, the topic was a very important, very pertinent topic. And actually it is well informative for the other parts of the people, other in the other states. I've circulated to many people. Don't find much people joined from outside, but actually it was a very important webinar for the people from outside. And it has a place scenic beauty, and with a richness of culture. And the culture, as mentioned rightly by Professor Pati, that bamboo dance actually one of the I'm not really that fantasy with culture and other dance programs and arts and culture programs, but actually I always enjoy the Sheru dance whenever I see in any function. About this is the only one I in my lifetime I like very much about this dance, which actually the rhythmic activity, and at the end of the dance, they call all the people to dance along with them, and actually that shows the respect and also the culture of the Mizo people, how they are actually enjoying in that. And it was a land with full of valleys, and a good number of tribal people. When we are traveling to the village areas, we see the culture, the houses, the groups of tribal houses. Actually, we see with the cultural significance and influence, and we have a wonderful environment when we are traveling. And the same environment I saw in many places, but it was beautiful, and never had any kind of disruption of the environment, and uh, no kind of pollution. And it was one of the beautiful experience where even we traveled for several hours. Myself and Professor Nandunga and Jyoti Kumar, we traveled many times to outside long places, and we saw beautiful environment during this travel. And among the northeast states, it's one of the beautiful state, and it is the most peaceful state actually. Beautiful when you compare with the beautiful environment. It is the one of the few, not one of the 4 or 5 beautiful states. But when you compare the peacefulness of the state, it is the number one among the northeast states. And it is the most important points you should know that it was. What are the things which we require here? What are the things we want to see here? That there are 2 national parks and several other um, uh, that is conserved areas in the forest region, which are actually very, tiger forest is also there, and even for bird watchers, it is one of the very beautiful place to observe, and wildlife environment is also very wonderful place to watch, and it was uh, a place where 91%, almost 92, 95, 91% of the land is covered with forest area. And we can see that um, the people who are, that is, they will be talking in their language, Mizo language. But actually, this is the only state where you can find people talking in English, even by auto driver or even by the that is workers who are working in the shops and everywhere. It is the most literate state in the country, and it was one of the very important state actually need to have the culture which they cultivate here, and the kind of discipline and the kind of approach and the kind of to the people outside and hospitality. It is one of the beautiful place, and it was in history-wise also the Tropic of Cancer passes through Mizoram. This is one of the important point to be mentioned. The Tropic of Cancer passes through Mizoram as well, and also there are more than 21 peaks in the Mizoram, that the mountain peaks you can find, and it is also in the fag end of Himalayas region, and it was almost more than 3,700 feet height than the sea level, and it is a land of amazing festivals. Actually, we see the festivals normally. I forgot that festival which is for conducted every year. Chapcharkut, I think. As Chapcharkut, it is one of the very famous function. Actually, they conduct the whole Mizoram. Actually, will be in a festival mode, and actually they will be going with the discipline in colorful dresses, and they play in a disciplined way. And even during the COVID time, they have been very disciplined way. They have controlled everything, but actually for almost more than 1 year, 3 months, actually they have been in a very good controlled condition. But in the recent past, the last 4 5 months, actually, it was little bit alarming for the state of Mizoram, with the maximum number of cases reported so far is around 1 lakh. I was that is out of 1 lakh, around 70,000 cases or 40,000 cases were cleared. And it was still some 25 to 30,000 cases are there. Every day, some 500 to 600 cases are still coming. That is one alarming situation. But it is the death toll is not that big actually, but it's around 350, something like that. And the Mizoram is one of the place where actually people can enjoy the stay here and very peacefully, and even for many years they can survive without any naturopathy treatment will be available without any kind of human interference, and it is a place people can live, and their lifespan also will be increased for a considerable number. And if you are really like living like a Mizo, walking on the hilly areas, and traveling, that is with foot, if you are able to go, not with vehicles, it will be very good healthy environment you can enjoy. And students wise, as already mentioned by Professor Pati, it was really a wonderful students we find here. They are very disciplined, cultured students, and also they come with beautiful colorful dresses, and they give importance and respect to the teachers, and they will not indulge any kind of ragging. And this is actually nowhere you find in the whole country of India. Actually, you find this kind of environment in many places, in European and North American countries, this kind of behavior and environment. But actually, the discipline of students and discipline of people you won't find anywhere in the whole world. So I salute the state of Mizoram and the people of Mizoram and students who are actually been well disciplined, and also because it's my lifetime opportunity to work here, and also to take part in the development of this university, and I will be very happy to be here for this tenure of my service here. I'm very happiest man in this earth to work in a place like Mizoram. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, whatever you told, that is very enlightening. Geography, origin, topography, biodiversity, environment, whatever we didn't cover in the topics, sir, you covered
Yes.
everything. Thank you so much, sir. So, with these few words, let me have the pleasure of inviting Professor Ralbiak Namte, Director, College Development Council, Professor of Education of our university. She will talk about education and research in Mizoram. Professor Dikte, please.
Thank you, Professor Pati. Uh, very good evening to everyone. Our respected Vice Chancellor, Professor KRS Sambasivarao, who has presented his own observation about Mizoram. And sir, I would like to thank you, although we are all in this together. As a Mizo, I want to thank you for giving that kind of observation within your short tenure that you have been here with us. And I hope that our partner institution also would be able to know something, because when it comes from the people who are living there, sometimes you can take it as a biased observation, or maybe we are trying to showcase something which may not be the actual reality. But Professor Pati and Professor Rao has I should say they are quite, very liberal in their praise of our state. And I do hope that our partner institution, whoever here is with us tonight, and not even those who are not with us tonight, you will have a chance to come sometime. And because of this COVID, although we had planned for some student exchange also, we were not able to do so. And I do hope that one day in the future, in the near future, maybe many people from the partner institution will be able to come and see for their own what is happening here in Mizoram. Uh, like what is being mentioned in the program, I have been asked to present something on education and research in Mizoram. Within a short period of maybe say 20 minutes, I don't know whether I will be able to cover everything that is there to be covered from the time before 1894 to the present day. Anyway, I will try to give a highlight of whatever we have in our history regarding the development of education in Mizoram, and what we have now with research also. Uh, Mizoram was previously one district, that is Lusai Hills district of Assam, and it was annexed by the British in 1890. Before that, the Mizos do not have any written language. So everything was done orally only. And whatever knowledge is being handed down, it is orally handed down from one generation to another generation. And there was nothing such as written works to be seen, because the Mizos did not have alphabets at that time. And it was during 1894 that two British missionaries came into Mizoram to preach the gospel and to do missionary works. And when they found that the Mizos were without alphabets, they started working on creating alphabet of the Mizos. And in 1894, the alphabet within according to the history, it was written that they took only 2.5 months to create the Mizo alphabets, and it was along the line of the Roman scripts. So from 1894, what we have, and in that time, 1894, after they were able to create that alphabets, they started a school. But it was not the formal school that we now generally understand. They took two students and they taught them in their own quarters. And so we can say that education in Mizoram started with 2 students in 1894. To be exact, it was on 1st April 1894 that it started with 2 students. And the first textbook, that is the first written book in the Mizo language, was published in 1895, 22nd October. So within a year, they were able to make one textbook for the students who were to study under them. So this was the first book written in Mizo. And the government started, the government means at that time, the British government has started government school in Lunglei. This may be termed as the first government school. That was in way back in 1897. And by 1903, that means 6 years after the first school was established, it was established in 15 villages. And what the British missionaries have done, or administration rather, because the British missionaries represented the British administration. What they have done to promote education, this is quite, significant, and this is worth making note of, is that in order to promote education, they announced that they will waive forced labor, which is known as kuli, because young men, young boys, young men, they have to carry the load of the missionaries when they are going for any trip, and that was a forced labor. And the British administration said that anyone who passed class 4, they will be exempted from that forced labor. And this is quite, a significant move to spread education in Mizoram. And in addition to this, they also provided scholarship to meritorious students, and they also gave grants to the schools. And the first systematic examination, after education was introduced, formal education was introduced, a systematic examination system was uh, organized, conducted on 25th June 1903. And this was known as lower primary examination. And here, there were as many as 19 candidates. So in 1894, it started with 2 students. By the time the first examination was conducted, there were 19 students, out of which only 2 were females. Why I want to talk about only 2 females? In the first candidates of the uh, primary education at that time is because at the last part of whatever I'm going to say, the gender gap, I am going to talk about the gender gap also. And so in 1897, the first elementary school, that is the first primary school, was established, and the first middle school came up in 1906. But there was a long gap between establishment of middle school and establishment of high school, which we call as secondary school. So the first secondary school came up only in 1944. So almost 40 years, 38 years to be exact, between the establishment of middle school and establishment of high school. So the first school was Mizo High School. It was named as Mizo High School. It is still there, very much still there near Chan Mari. And I don't know whether our colleagues from Mizoram University have also known about this. And that was established in 1944. And the first higher education institute, the now Constituent College of our university, Pachunga Memorial College. It started as Ijal College, and it was established in 1958. And now coming to MZU, it was established in 2001, although we have a Mizoram campus of Nehu from 1979. Campus of Mizoram campus of Nehu was established in 1979, and we have our own university, Mizoram University, a central university, which was established by an act of parliament in 2000 and opened in 2001. So if you look at the growth from 1894 to 2001, you will find that Mizoram within almost 100, more than 100 years, the growth, if we look at the growth of the institution, maybe we can say that it is quite slow. But if we look at the spread of education, formal education and literacy, you will find that there are significant developments, significant progress. Now, when we talk about education, the general pattern of education for a very long time was just a simple progression from primary to secondary education, and students were able to pursue a course of their wishes only after secondary education. And the first institute for craftsmanship training, for tailoring, for electricity, plumbing, different sorts of craftsmanship, which is known as Industrial Training Institute, was established in 1964 by government of Mizoram. And it was only after 1980 that technical and vocational courses were started in Mizoram. The College of Veterinary Sciences and Animal Husbandry came into being in 1997 as one of the constituent college of Central Agriculture University. And NILIT, it started as DOE-SCC, but now has been upgraded as National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology. This came into being in 2000, and we have another university known as ICFI, which was established in 2006. And National Institute of Technology, Mizoram, has also been established in 2010. Now, if we look at the history of the development of education, we can talk about numbers, we can talk about dates, but tonight I want to bring to light some significant features of the development of education in Mizoram. Like I've said, it started in 1894 and with 2 students. But by 1941, Lushai Hills, it was Lushai Hills, as I've said previously, Lushai Hills of Assam State. And Lushai Hills attained highest literacy rate in the whole country. And the literacy rate at that time, 1941, was 36%. And in 1971, the literacy percentage was 53.79. And I will not, all this, you will find it in anywhere, literature, you can find it. And by 2011, Mizoram has attained second position in literacy percentage. And the literacy percentage in 2011 was 91.58. As we all know, due to this COVID, we still are not able to have census survey for 2021. And as I've said, the first candidates of lower primary examination was 19, where only 2 were females. But gap in literacy among male and female in Mizoram, it was only in the case of 1981 that it was more than 10. But for the rest of the census, the literacy rate was, the gender gap in education, I should say, was less than 10. It's always less than 10, sometimes less than 5. And I also had a survey on the gender gap in education on different levels. But what I want to say is that the higher the level of education is, the lesser there is gender gap. And this is, I should say, this is quite a striking feature of education in Mizoram. If we look at the university list of students also, we will find that in some academic sessions, we will find more females. So the gender gap is in favor of females in many of the academic years that we have. Now, coming to research, Mizoram, as I've said, we were lagging behind if we talk about the other states in India. But there was Tribal Institute, which was under Department of Education. Excuse me, just one moment. Hello, I'm back again. Uh, so research was started with Tribal Research Institute, which was under Department of Education. And Department of Education has been bifurcated into three departments now. And now it is under Department of Art and Culture. And Tribal Research Institute is headed by senior research officer, where they did lots of research, and they were trying to, it was established in 1974, and what they have done was they tried to retrieve many outdated books which were written by different authors, and which was out of edition. And they have started doing that, and they also promoted doing research on Mizo culture, Mizo politics, and they have done quite uh, a good number of works on this. And we have archives in Art and Culture Department, which is looked after by this Tribal Research Institute, and they have quite a good number of books. I have the list of the books, but it's no use mentioning these books. And we also have uh, SCERT, which is State Council of Educational Research and Training. And they have also done lots of research on education, especially at the school education level. And we, looking at the different research related books, as I've said, I'm not going to talk about the different books that have been published so far, because there are lots and lots of it. But just one thing I want to mention tonight is that when we talk about the researches that is being done, these are not the research, the academic research that we are doing in MZU, that we will talk about later on. We have done lots of works on this, but if we look at this, let me call it as people not from academic side, but are doing a good number of researches, we will find that lots of issues, lots of problems has been tackled by these researchers. For example, we have books on geography of Mizoram. We have books on Mizoram past and present, and the traditional medicinal plants. We also have adoption of improved technologies of pig farmers. I am picking this one because piggery is, a source of income for many, and pork is a very common meat, popular meat in Mizoram. So the pig farmers, they have faced lots of problems in breeding pigs. So a research has been done on the adoption of improved technologies of pig farmers. And I have talked about the contribution of the missionaries. And there is a book on education and missionaries. And Mizoram is very famous for the slash and burn kind of, farming. And we are still doing that shift in cultivation. And the effect of slash and burn shift in cultivation has also been researched. And Mizoram has been also very popular because of that insurgency, the fight for independence, and the role of making of Mizoram, the role of Laldenga. All these are historical, researches that has been done, which will throw light on how Mizoram has been made into what it is now. The culture and folklore of Mizoram, and there is one book which is quite interesting, that is the Dagger Brigade, which is made uh, based on the insurgency period and the fight for independence. Not only that, but the the culture and uh, our what we call our patriots, not only during insurgency but before that, way before the British came into being. So this is also something which is a kind of research based book. And now coming to MZU, uh, as I've said, it was established in 2001, and I'm not going to talk into detail about the different researches that is being done. But we have very, good laboratories, especially in science, and we have renowned researchers. I don't need to name names, but they have been, known internationally, and they have done lots of researches. So the way things are going on with Mizoram firmly, firmly on the ground, we are hoping to see more researches which will have more impact for the development, for the progress of Mizoram, as well as for the progress of not only the state, but nationwide also. We are hoping that we will be able to influence others to take on more research, and we are moving forward in this direction also. So like I've said, within this limited time that we have, I will just close my presentation by saying that although we are still very young compared to other states, the way that education and research is developing, we hope that one day we will be among the best, uh, among the best states in India. And I do hope that our partner institution also will come and see for yourself what is happening here in Mizoram. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Professor. Talibak Namte, fantastic. You have taken us to a journey and unfolded a bird's-eye view, but within a short span of time, you have covered a lot of grounds, and with a positive note that with our budding researchers, definitely in future, we'll have more researches contributing to state and the nation. Thank you very much. Now it's a pleasure to invite Dr. Ruth Lallemluati, Associate Professor, Department of Mizo. She is an esteemed member of Mizoram University Journal of Humanities Social Sciences. She is an author and also enthusiast who is always ready, to help students and faculty. So it's a pleasure to invite Dr. Ruth. She will talk about history and culture of Mizoram. Dr. Ruth.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir, Professor Pati, the chairman and convener of this program. And also, I would like to thank the organizing secretary, Professor HK, for giving me this opportunity to speak on the Mizo culture. I would like to wish good evening to all the participants and our respected Vice Chancellor, sir, who is here with us. He has enlightened us with many of the present Mizo culture and society in his speech. And also we have heard from Professor Dikte, our esteemed professor from the Department of Education, about the educational development and the history. She has also highlighted some of the history aspects of the Mizo society and culture. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. As my topic has been discussed, highlighted by the chairman, the topic is very vast, as we can see, which cannot be covered within just 30 or 20 minutes or so. So I have narrowed it down to a smaller topic. So this afternoon, this evening, I will be speaking on some of the brief aspects of Mizo culture and society, an overview of traditional Mizo culture and society. I have specifically put traditional because the topic that I will be dealing with, the culture and society that are reflected in my paper, is something that was already in the past, some for the from the this pre-colonial period. Okay, so the society of the Mizo in the pre-colonial period will be reflected in this paper, and I will be reading the paper. The Mizo, as we have heard from the previous speaker, they had not had any form of writing before the missionaries have provided the phonetic alphabetical script in the year 1894. So everything that was passed on down was just traditional knowledge which was handed down orally from the generations to the generations. So the early Mizo life in the pre-literate time was constrained struggle for endurance. Life was not easy for them as they have to struggle tirelessly against the forces of nature. Their social and custom structure was generally influenced by their daily occupation as agriculture and hunting expedition. They earned their livelihood by practicing shifting cultivations, where so they have to strive constantly for a selection of an inhabitable place for shelter and fruitful land for food. So Mizo traditional society centered primarily in the struggle for survival in hilly and mountainous terrain, with slash and burn agriculture, hunting and gathering of foods in tropical jungles, and also the conflict that grew from among their kins group. So that was the that was the life that they lived. So because of that, they need a very well-governed and close-knit society, well-formed government. So in this paper, I'm going to highlight some of the traditions and practices that they have done. Firstly, I would like to highlight the village chief, the chieftainship, the village chief. So the most important chief administrator of the early village administration was the chief. So the chief was the pivot of the village administrative system, the legal power that endorsed laws and at the same time execute these laws at his decision. He had the power over life and death, eviction of villagers, and the right to demand free labor for the construction of his house. The chief was also the guardian of the village land. He selected site for cultivations and also enabled a class of people to choose land before the commoners as such. There are many places where he has the power. He set up new villages for his sons after they got married, and he would keep for himself a substantial village land. On his death, he would pass on to the youngest son. So likewise, the chieftainship was passed on from generations to generations to his sons. So the chief's house is at the center of one of the center of the village. The chief house was constructed there. So he has a group of people, administrator, who are called the village elders, and in Mizo they are upa. Okay, the upa are the village elders who support him, who are his who were under his committee. The upa were the village elders who assist the chief in governing the village. There was no prescribed number of elders, and the chief could appoint any number of elders depending on the size of the village and population composition clan-wise. So in the meanwhile, even though the chief has a great authority and powers, he have to be very careful as well, because the villagers were also free to live and take shelter under different chiefs in another village if the chief became dictatorial or indifferent to their needs and conveniences. So that is why the chief have to be very careful not to lose their trust and confidence. So misbehaving on the overruling principle could also render the chief the sole subject of an abandoned village. So he have to maintain that as well. So the second point I have stressed is Zolbuk tradition. The Zolbuk tradition is a very important thing in the Mizo society. The Zolbuk was primarily a bachelor's dormitory, and it is a powerful institution of the traditional Mizo society. Basically, it is the sleeping place and a center for the mobilization of young men for execution of speedy, strong, and united force for the protection of the village. The Zolbuk was established to concentrate potential manpower in case of emergency in the village. The Zolbuk members were kept in readiness to counter-attack any enemy attack or fight against the enemies, and when desired by the chief of the village. A Zolbuk was built basically at the center place, usually adjacent to the chief's house. It is the biggest house in the village, and it can be identified easily. So the chief of the village was in notion of the highest authority of the Zolbuk, but in reality, Zolbuk was controlled by the inmates through some form of a self-government. So no one could interfere in the management except the chief. So the inmates have the full authority. The chief had some authority to command and control its members. Zolbuk had one Valupa, who is the chief controller and who was the overall in charge. And he is one of the elder. And the Zolbuk members were divided into two sections. Boys who have not attained adolescence called Ting Noi Phom, those boys who are collecting firewoods, those are in one groups, and the other groups are the young men who have attained adolescence called Tlangval. Bachelors are called Tlangval in Mizo language. So the Zolbuk form two groups of people. Okay, so here each sections of this inmates have responsibility and chores that they have to fulfill in the Zolbuk. Okay, like the boys, those boys who are not yet adolescents, they are in charge of collecting firewoods, they are in charge of carrying waters, laundries as such. So those things were practiced there. And also this dormitory, this Zolbuk is one of the most important place where the children and the young ones were disciplined and trained. It is one of the first informal education where people are taught the way of life, the practices, everything, the good things were taught in this Zolbuk. Okay, so the next point is marriage traditions. Let me talk about the marriage practices and what are the marriages in the Mizo society. The Mizo society was a love marriage, not was. Till today also, the practice is love marriages, unlike many other parts of the Indian tradition. The choice of marriage was basically associated with the value system prevailing in the society. Men who were recognized with abilities in hunting and bravery were sought for. The girls' greatest traits were physical beauty. Lade is also another skill that is very important in judging. Lade means the spinning wheels and looms, the techniques of spinning wheels and looms. This is one of the thing which is very important skill for the women, and the ability to work hard in labor in agriculture work. So when a male child was born during that time, he was blessed by the elders with the skill in war and hunting. And in the meanwhile, the female child were blessed with physical beauty and skills in domestic works. So likewise, it was classified from the time they were born. The blessings were blessed upon them in such a way. So there was no rule suggesting clan exogamy. So anyone could marry members of one's own clan or outside one's own, the other clan. So this was practiced. So anyone can marry from the other clan also. And however, there was a situation reflected in many of the folk tales, as also in the legends and the story, that some of the silo chiefs and other chiefly clans usually limit marriages within their own clan or within the families of the chiefly clans. Mostly it is because they want to maintain their stability, and also they want to afford the mutual help and support in time of war from the neighboring village as well. So the silo in certain cases took extreme steps to avoid marriages with Namchom, that is the common people. So these are also reflected in the stories. Many popular legends we have heard from Lianxiari and all those Lal Peri stories. I don't know whether you have heard of all those things. So another noteworthy thing when we talk about marriages is the bride price, the price of the bride. It is usually a contractual agreement between two parties involved and might widely vary between clans and in different occasions. So bride price was generally settled in terms of sial. Sial is a mithun. Okay, sial is a mithun. So the bride price was settled in terms of this mithun, and the bride the price was not given in kind as such. A mithun is not given. It is usually paid in certain articles or goods. It need not be a sial or a mithun. So it was paid in such a way. So equivalent to the sial, it will be paid in terms of the other goods and articles. So the bride price directly reflects the social status of the contracting parties. If the girl's parents or relatives ask for an extraordinary large bride price, it meant that they do not agree or approve the marriages. So in some stories also we have like Liandawate Unao, very popular folk tales, where they demand a large sum of money. They formally agree to hand over their daughters, but then in reality what they did was that they have demanded a large amount which a man cannot pay. So in likewise, so these are the kind of thing that we see. And there are a number of stories where girls' parents or relatives ask for an extremely ridiculous bride price to prevent the marriage. So nowadays, the price of this marriage, I think you will be interested. I don't know whether you have heard of this. Our price, let us say I am a lady, in today's Mizoram modern society is 420 rupees. So 400 is the actual price. We call it chutpa for another 20 rupees. So they have to pay that amount. So that is about the marriages and the price. Now, moving on, I have to move on because I want to cover more topics. So I will not go deep into one topic. So let us talk about Nularim. Nularim is a kind of a courting. Nularim is a Mizo language, which is very common in Mizo society in the earlier days. It is still very much relevant in present day also. Nularim is a kind of a courting. In Mizo society, man would freely court any unmarried lady. The society was open towards free mixing of boys and girls. This, however, does not mean that the premarital sexual practices were extensive. So this was mainly because of the that the women and men are free to freely mingle with each other. They have the freedom to court any female that they like. So the Nularim, courting a lady by visiting their house at night, is an important culture of Mizo, which portrays the life of the youth. So after dinner time, the young man would gather at Zolbuk. Zolbuk is a place, the bachelor's dormitory I have mentioned. So they would gather there for quite some time, and after that, they would move out in groups or in partners to visit the girls of their dream. They would visit the ladies' house. Okay, so they would visit the house, and then they would sit and chat near the hearth, which was the only source of light at night. So they would gather there. The women would have more than 2 or 3 visitors. Some women who are physically fair, they would have a number of visitors at night. So at this time, she is not allowed to speak in favor or glance at the one she favors, but rather treat everyone equally. So this practice was very important for the lady. They could not have a biased attitude to a person who are even attracted. So she had to hide her feelings as long as possible, even to her lover if he was present. They freely converse about day-to-day life and eventually build their relationship. This was the kind of women courting that they used to have at night. Apart from Nularim, much of the interactions among the unmarried men and women took place while walking in Jew. Most of their life was roaming. So that field was also used as a useful place to court each other. So this system was called inlom, in Lom is a system where young men and women, irrespective of family status, paired themselves in such a way that agriculture work would be performed uh, jointly on two or more plots of land at alternate days. It was also a chance to be together with the one they secretly admired. So when a man says "kalom nu," my lom girl, they would sometimes mean to say my girlfriend, my lover. So it mostly means that he is addressing her as a lover. In Lom provides this Lom provides available opportunity for the lovers to spend time together while walking. So they would wait for each other when they are going to the June at the outskirts of the village, where the lady would then carry the food, water, tools of the man on her back. And then they also there are also instances where this in law brings together two people who were not at first lovers, but then after sharing all those moments together, they tend to build relationship. Though they work very hard during these times, they were very happy in their own world. So this is about the relationship between men and women, unmarried men and women. So coming to the next point, let me talk about the death and afterlife, sorry, the practices, how death are treated, and how else the beliefs of the afterlife by the Mizo people. The Mizo believed that on the death of a man, his soul left him and went up to Reedil. Reedil is a lake that is in the Burma border there, in Burma side. So they believe that from there it returned and wandered in and around the house for about 3 months, during which when the dead returned back in the around the house for the 3 months, the person have to perform mitithai, which was performed by the family of the dead person. So during this time, how they perform this Thaisia ceremony is that it was to be performed by the man's wife, or if he is unmarried, the father or the brother or any relatives have to perform that. Okay, so during this time, the family have to kill a number of animals, and they have to provide a feast. If they are a well-to-do family, they will provide a mithun, a pig, a dog, and a goat that are killed. If they are a poor family, at least they have to kill one animal, okay, of their choice, if they are a poor family. So after this performance, during this 3 months time, after Mitithai, another ceremony, which is the final farewell ceremony, was performed. That is Thitrin ceremony. So after this performance of this ceremony, they believe that it is the final bidding farewell for the deceased person, and the soul left the Mithikwa or left for the Mithikwa or Pielra, never to return again. So I will try to talk about this Mithikwa and Pielral. They are the imaginary abode of the dead people, which the Mizo believe that they are the life where life after death was there. From Reedil, the lake, the soul proceeds to Kampiel, then Shin Lang Tlang. Shin Lang Tlang is a hill from which the place of the living could be seen. The soul would pass on after Reedil to Shin Lang Tlang, and from there he will be looking back at the place of the living, where he was filled with a loneliness and grief, and he would weep bitterly. And just near this Shin Lang Tlang, there was a clear water called Lung Lo Tui. So this water is called Lung Lo Tui, water which drives away all loneliness, is the literal meaning of this. So the soul drink this water, and then much of his loneliness went away. And just this near water is Hoi Lo Par. Hoi Lo Par is flower of no turning back. So when the soul plucked this flower, suddenly the soul completely forgot about the living world, and then he moved on for his final abode. So the Mizo believed that the deceased person spirits were destined according to the achievements of the person in their temporal world. They believe that there are two places for the soul in the afterlife, that is Mithikwa and Pialra. So Mitikwa is the souls of the ordinary man, the common man, where the souls would take rest, where the souls have to continue to work and toil. On the other hand, Bielral is a place where the soul would take rest from eternal toils and worries. So the souls of those who have performed special sacrifice and killed wild animals as permitted to enter Bielral. So it is the ambition of every Mizo to perform all those required sequence to be able to attend Bielral. So those are called Tangchua. There are two kinds of Tangchua, In Lama Tangchua and Ram Lama Tangchua. So in Lama Tangchua, they have to perform many feasts, okay, step of feast to the villagers. And to perform this Ram Lama Tangchua, they have to kill many wild animals. So those who have performed all those things, the sequence, they will be resting in Pialra. So that was the belief that they have. So coming to the last part, that is the festivals. We cannot exclude the festivals because it is the merriest and the most popular traditions in the Mizo culture. So festival is one of the most important practice in the history of Mizo society. So it is universal that every tribe has its own annual celebration or ceremony, both religious and cultural festivals. So the Mizo have three important festivals, namely Mim Kut, Saptar Kut, and Pol Kut. So these are held at specific time and season of the year. Mimkut, firstly, is celebrated in the month of May to September. It is the time of harvesting the maize. Mim is maize. Paimim is maize. So Mimkut is the time of harvesting the maize crops, dedicated to the memory of their deceased relatives. The festival emphasizes the spirits of thanksgiving and remembrance of the years gone by. The next and the most popular one is Saptar Kut. Even our respected Vice Chancellor has mentioned that Saptar Kut is celebrated during the springtime, that is after the June cutting is over. So the season is ideal and it is perhaps the merriest of the Mizo festival. It is celebrated with full enjoyment. It is still practiced even today in the month of March here in Aizawl, Mizoram, and different parts of the villages also. So it is celebrated in March, a festival which is accompanied with dance and music. So one of the most popular music and song which is related with this is Chai La, where a group of people stand together and in a rhythmic way move, swing themselves, holding each other. That kind of activity is done here. So this was the merriest of all the festivals. The last but not the least, the Pol Pot festival is a post-harvesting festival, which is celebrated during the winter time, usually in the month of December and January. In this festival also, an atmosphere of thanksgiving is manifested because the complicated task of cultivating and harvesting is finally over. So they take time to give thanks. So even every distinctive tribe generally has their own annual festival. The ceremonial fast and festivals were very much connected with the Mizo religion. And these festivals are connected with a numbers of songs, and then it plays significant role in learning about the oral culture as well, oral traditions from the folk song. So those are the points which I have reflected. And coming to the last point, my conclusion, these are the brief highlights of the pre-colonial Mizo culture and society. Even still during this time till today, some of them are still very much in practice, but because of the development and because of the many other Christianities, the coming of the Christianities, many of the practices have been altered, modified. It has been developed into a more modern and more cultured way. So even though the practices are still very much relevant, we have abandoned most of the practices, like the beliefs of how the soul passes. This has been changed very greatly with the belief that about Jesus Christ, the Savior, and the belief of heaven, and all these things have superseded those beliefs. So with that, I would like to conclude my brief presentation. I hope it is enlightening, especially for those those colleagues from Bihar and other universities who are not aware of the Mizo culture and society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth. Wonderful depiction of tradition, modernity, and till this postmodern period. Wonderful. So before I hand over to Dr. S.K. Laldinku Phente for a formal vote of thanks, only two sentences as the chairman's speech. First, Honorable Vice Chancellor told the brief account of geography, the topography, biodiversity, and the strategies by which Mizoram is known throughout the world. Professor Lal Biag Diki Namte, fantastic, both quantity and quality wise. 1894 on the ground with the two students. In 2021 with this university emerging higher education institution in the country, a central university, colleges, schools, and quality-wise from local to state, region, to country, to the international community, the contribution of Mizoram in education, literacy, and research. Wonderful depiction, Professor Namte. And Dr. Ruth, you told that very little you will told, but actually what you have told is tradition, culture, dress, food habit, jol book, courtship, hunting, agriculture, festivals, what not you have depicted from the earliest time to pre-British to British till present day. Wonderful. So we are simply amazed by both the experts, guest speakers of today's No Mizoram. I think they have done justice to the topic. From my bottom of my heart, I have to say thank you to them. So with these few words, let me request Professor H.K. Laldinku Phente herself is a fantastic speaker, author. She can give very well a full speech, but because of time constraint for some other day, for today, briefly, Professor Phente will propose a vote of thanks. Yes, Professor Phente.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Convener, Professor Srinivas Pati. This was a webinar on No Mizoram, and we got 2 resource persons, but we ended up with 4 resource persons, I think. Such a wonderful depiction of Mizoram from Professor Pati and our Honorable Vice Chancellor, who shared his lovely personal experiences. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for that. And of course, we are very, very thankful at Mizoram University, especially the EBSB team. As we conclude this month, we are able to do all that we were supposed to, I think, for this month. It's good to keep the timeline and everything. So we're very, very glad that we were able to do this. And so we thank our partner, the Mahatma Gandhi Central University of Bihar, the Vice Chancellor there, the faculty, the students who have joined us here. And we really, really appreciate your time. And we wish that you could visit, or we could visit. Actually, we had already had a very, big plans, how we are going to welcome you and how many students will be coming over there. We are all very, very enthusiastic, but because of the pandemic, we have not been able to do it. But hopefully in the near future, we will be able to do this. And of course, the 2, my very good friends and colleagues, the best people to speak on the topic. Very grateful to you. I was so enlightened myself, to hear about my own state, even for the Mizo people who have attended here, it was very, very enlightening. So thank you so much. And of course, the convener of the partnership at Mizoram University site, Professor Srinivas Pati. Thank you so much, everybody. Ek Bharat, Shreshtha Bharat. Good night, everybody.